Hello everyone, it's Sunday, or Monday morning if you're in New Zealand or Australia, which means it's time for another update on the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. Welcome back to the layout, everyone. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 8 of season 2023. And the only thing I really have to show you is some progress on scenery. Have definitely been working on doing additional scenery on the layout, especially on the peninsula. I actually did not spend that much time on this. I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on just running trains and working on the operating scheme of the layout. And finally, by Thursday, I forced myself to get going on putting the paper on the scenery. Now, this is where we ended up last week after my good friends Mark Bridgewater and Scott Chatfield were here and helped me get started on this scenery. We had all the cardboard webbing in place, and we had the paper done up to just almost to the end of the peninsula. Now, Mark and Scott did most of this. I, of course, helped and was making sure everything was being done according to specifications. Scott did the paper on here, did a good job, and I was really thankful for them, and definitely gave me, I think, a good start. And also watching Scott put on the paper kind of helped me know what was the best way to go about doing that. Now, if you notice, I do have some masking tape on here. I think I'm going to kind of change things a little bit. I'm going to take that masking tape off, and I think I'm just going to put some plaster cloth over the paper. I think I will do it specifically on wherever there's a seam. All right, so a seam between the paper and the roadbed, and then seams between one piece of paper and the next piece of paper. Now, again, this is where things stood last week. Scott got the paper on up to this point. We got the webbing done pretty much all the way around. Mark and Scott both kind of worked on this. I helped with a few pieces of the webbing. And I also made sure all the track had feeders, because once all this is in place, it's going to be very difficult to do any kind of work on the track, especially in the tunnels. But this is pretty much where things stood after the update from last week. So instead of continuing where Scott let off, I decided to work on the other end. So I started on the curval end. This is probably the most difficult, so I figured I'd do the most difficult first, and then kind of hopefully get things a little bit easier as we go by. Now, I didn't complete this 100% because I need to get the bridge pieces, the abutments for the tunnels and the piers, and abutments for the bridge, and then the bridge itself. I have ordered all those. I got four 50-foot bridges. The open girder bridge with a ballast, where you can ballast on the bridge. I got 4 of those. And then I got a couple of piers and some abutments and so forth. So that should be in the mail here a little bit. So I can finish working that. Now, I am going to kind of push this down a little bit. After looking at this, it's a little bit too sharp of a slope there. I don't think the dirt would really hold at that much of a slope unless it's rock there. So I'm going to kind of work on that. Then this is kind of where the maintenance road is going to go. It's going to kind of zigzag back and forth. Kind of go down here, stay out of the gully there, go across the track, and then down here, and then I'll either end it here or go through the cut there. I might just end it here and then come from the other side for the maintenance road. But you can kind of see it's kind of have a little bit of a pathway there for the maintenance road. Again, you can see that slope's a little too sharp there, so I'm going to push that down a little bit, I think, and kind of make it much less of a slope. You kind of see what I'm going to be looking for a little bit. I might was thinking about maybe putting some rock work there. Maybe leave it at the slope it is right now and put some rock work there. I don't know if I'll end up doing that or not, but we'll do that this week. As I said, I'm going to put some plaster cloth over all the seams here. One other thing I kind of worked on here, Mark Bridgewater saw a picture that I sent him. He noticed that this slope here is a little sharp on the very end there from the roadbed down to the fascia. So the picture I sent him was even more sloped than this. But I think I may need to even kind of bring it out even more somehow. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I may have to bring the fascia up a little bit. So we'll see. I pushed it up enough to where it's not really too noticeable visually, but all the other three slopes are at about 45 degrees, and then that one is like 60, so it's 15 degrees off. So I don't know, try and decide what to do there. But I am going to try and put the plaster cloth on all the seams and the joints, and I might put plaster cloth over the whole thing. My son is going to be here to help me, so I'm going to have some more help this week. So the two of us will be putting in some plaster cloth. I'm going to start with the seams, and then we'll see. From there, I may end up just doing the whole thing. It doesn't take long to put the plaster cloth on there, and I'll give it some extra rigidity. And then I will paint over that eventually with the white glue, kind of smooth out the texture of the plaster cloth and give it even more strength. Now, I'm not really, some people are saying I have to do plaster or whatever to give it the strength that it needs, but as you can see, it's really high. So there really, unless you're 6'4", there really isn't any opportunity to really lean on the layout. So I don't really think there's going to be much problem with that. So I'm not too concerned about it being super strong. Now, a lot of people ask, are you going to have access in the tunnels? So here's what it looks like in the tunnels. And as you can see, I can get to there. This is where the two tunnels are, just to the east of Curvo. And I can get the camera up there, so obviously I can get my hand up there. Here you can kind of see one of the tunnel portals. So I did, before I ran some trains, I did stick my hand up there and run a bright boy over it to clean it. This is what it looks like under there. I have a little red stool that I can roll around on, so I did that. Now here, where you have the single tunnel, where it's a sharp curve at the very end of the peninsula, the support joists are closer together, so it's a little bit harder to get to it, but it is still accessible. I think I'm going to put some cardboard on top of the joist, just in case I do string line cars in there, so that they don't fall into the abyss. But as you can see, they're a little bit closer together there, so it's not really easy to get my hands on the track, but I can definitely fish out any cars that might be derailed in there, and I can get a bright boy on there and clean the track if I need to. Won't be able to do anything like solder feeder wires to it or anything like that, but it is definitely accessible. Now, here's the scenery that we did 1 year ago, and you kind of get an idea. This is not finished. This is just a basic scenery. As you can see, there's no ballast. No static grass yet, and just some ground clump foliage. So eventually I'm going to put a lot more detail, but to get an idea of what the color is going to be like and what the texture is going to be like. A little bit of what the scene looks like. So kind of keep that vision right there in your mind as we make the transition now to the new scenery. So we're going to have that same look, then hopefully continue on to this new part of the scenery. And like I said, I'm going to try to do the plaster cloth and the white glue this week, and then we'll paint some color on it and put some ground foam on the following week. So hopefully in a couple weeks we'll have this area looking pretty similar to what you just saw previous to this scene. I'm really excited about this scenery. I think it looks outstanding. I'm extremely happy. I think it definitely is very close to the topography of the Wasatch Grade, and definitely this particular line where you have two main lines taking different routes. You have grade separation, you have track separation, and I think it's going to be very indicative of the prototype. So things right now looking pretty good. Just excited to get moving on this. I was hoping to get a couple of turnouts done. I still have 2 turnouts to add to West Vaco to finish that yard out. And then another turnout at the Granger control point to have the Pocatello Sub come off of there and run behind a backdrop so we can have some train action going from the Evanston Sub onto the Pocatello Sub at Granger. And I also still need to do a little bit of track work at Evanston Yard still for the car shops. So hopefully we'll be able to squeeze some of that in. Once I get that done, I'll have all the track work done. Right now we're kind of working on the scenery. Now this stack train is coming down on the original main line. You can hear the dynamic brakes on as it brakes its way down the 1.7% incline. I had to do some adjusting on the portals to make sure that the stack train is able to go through without any difficulties. It's pretty close on the tunnel portals for the very end of the peninsula where there's a sharp curve. And yes, I do have an SD60 as a DPU. I'm sure there's those of you out there are probably getting ready to write a comment about how SD60s weren't used as DPUs, but actually I found a picture of an SD60, in fact with this particular road number, this particular locomotive working as a DPU. So they repainted these in 2018, which is a little bit beyond my time limit. But anyway, they repainted them, and I think they reshopped them also, and looks like they, on some of the units, added the capability for running as a DPU. So it's in the mid-train, running as a DPU on this stack train with a couple of cars of trailers. Right now we got a couple of coal trains heading through the scenery. The bridge will not be quite as long as it seems to be right here. You'll get a better idea of exactly how this bridge is going to look once I get the parts in for that particular project. Yes, I did stage these trains to both come through this scene at the same time, but it could happen. And I probably will from time to time. Looks pretty cool, I think. One of the things I really liked about the Evanston Sub was how it had the 2 tracks of the main line at different grades going past each other. I thought that was pretty cool. So here you see the modern main line on the right with the empties going up the grade and the original main line up at a little bit higher elevation carrying loaded gons or hoppers down the grade. These both these trains have 46 cars, so they came in at the same time. They should leave at the same time, which they do. The one going uphill is a little bit slower, which is to be expected. That's an Athearn SD90 as the rear DPU. Now, if you have a real keen eye, you can notice that the train came uncoupled there, right between the black cars and the silver cars. I still need to change some couplers. I don't have all these changed over to KDs yet. What's interesting to note is that by the time it gets to the top of the hill, it comes back together. That's one of the things with running DPUs is you do have a lot of slack action on the train, and so definitely need to have reliable couplers. As you can see, this one did go back together. Made me wonder how many times this has happened while I'm running trains. What I've been doing, and I haven't changed all the couplers out to KDs, I hope to eventually, but what I've been doing is whenever I have an incident like this where there's an uncoupling, then I will take those 2 cars that came uncoupled and I'll swap out all the 4 couplers on those 2 cars to KDs. Anytime there's an incident where a coupler malfunctions, then I change them out. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great week. Take care.